Okay, so I'm going to do these by factoring because I think that you got these out of 4.R.2. So to factor, remember that we do always need to be equal to 0. So for this first example, we are equal to 0, so we don't have to worry about that. So what we're going to do is we're going to do our two parentheses. We're going to lead off each of them with the letter y. The reason is because we will have y times y, which will give us that y squared. And then because of our signs, so because this back sign is a negative, we know that our signs are going to be opposite. The reason they're going to be opposite is in order to get a negative number through multiplication, the only way to do that is to do a negative times a positive. And then if we look at this center sign, since they are going to be opposite, this guy is going to tell us that the larger number is positive. Okay, so your larger number is going to match up with that center sign. So then we need to come over here and we need to find two numbers. The two things they need to do is they need to multiply to 40, technically negative 40 since we are working with a negative number here, and they need to add to the center, which is a positive 6. So I just like to write down my negative 40 and start writing down factors of 40. If you figure out what it is quicker than this, that's perfectly fine. I'm just going to show you how, one way to do this. So we would have 1 and 40, 2 and 10. 3 doesn't divide into it, so we would have, oh no, I'm sorry. I said 2 and 10, that should be 2 and 20. There we go. 4 and 10, and then we'd have 5 and 8, and then 6 doesn't divide into it, neither does 7, and then we're back to 8. And again, remember that my larger number is positive, so all of these on the left-hand side are all going to be my negative numbers. So now what we're going to do is just going to add these together. So that's going to give us 39. That's not right. This is going to give us 18. That's not right. Negative 4 and 10, that's going to give us 6. There it is. So there's our pair that we're going to use. So we're going to have y minus 4, y plus 10 equal to 0. And then to solve this, we're just going to take each parentheses. We're going to set it equal to 0. So y minus 4 equals 0. We do the same thing for the y plus 10. I'm going to set that equal to 0. And we're going to add 4 here. So y equals 4. And we're going to subtract 10 here. So y equals negative 10. And there's our two answers for this particular problem. I believe when you're doing this assignment, I can't quite remember, it has you do it in 2 steps. If it does have you do it in 2 steps, the first step is wanting this answer. So this would be step 1. And then the second step are wanting these answers here. Okay? So let's do the next problem. Notice in this one, we are not equal to 0. So the first thing we need to do before we can talk about factoring is to subtract the 10 from both sides. We're going to stick that 10 right behind that z. So we have z squared minus 3z minus 10 equal to 0. So now that we're equal to 0, we're going to do our two parentheses. We're going to lead off with a z and a z. Again, we're using z because that's our letter, and we have 2 of them because we're just going to multiply together to give us our z squared. Again, we've got our signs going on here, so talking about that last sign first. This is negative 10, so that means that they are going to be opposite signs. And then we look at the center here, and that's a negative as well. So this means that they are going to be, or the larger is negative. Okay, so we want two numbers that multiply to negative 10. We want them to add to negative 3. So again, I'm just going to put my negative 10 here and start looking at its factors. So I've got 1 and 10, 2 and 5, and that is actually all the factors of 10. Remember, my larger number is going to be negative, so I'm going to have a negative 10 and a negative 5. And when I add those together, this first one's going to give us negative 9. That's not negative 3, so that didn't work. And then 2 minus 5. There's our negative 3, so there's our factors. So I'm going to put in plus 2 minus 5, still equal to 0. And then again, making sure to take each one and set it equal to 0. So, oops, I didn't mean to do that. So z plus 2 is equal to 0. And we're going to subtract 2 from both sides. So one answer is z is equal to negative 2. So there's one possibility. And then doing the same thing here with the other answer. So z minus 5 is equal to 0. We're going to add 5 to both sides, and z is equal to 5, and that is our second answer. I hope these 2 examples helped you out. Let me know if you need any more.